So in today's video, we're going to be testing whether or not the new Gemini 2.5 is actually great at trading strategies. And trust me guys, some of the results might actually surprise you. The reason I'm testing Google's recent model is because if you look at the recent benchmarks, this model crushes absolutely everything when it comes to coding capabilities. So in today's video, I'll be putting it to the test. So let's test out tier 1. This is the very basic strategy, and it's just a simple moving average crossover. So the goal here is to test if the AI can write basic functional PineScript logic. The strategy here is going to be to buy when the 9 EMA crosses above the 21 EMA and then sell when it crosses below. So let me head on over to my community. Then I'm going to copy this. And since PineScript has updated to V6, I'm actually going to include this so it doesn't really make as much mistakes. So now I'm just going to input that prompt, and all I have to do now is simply wait. And this is tier 1. We have 5 different tiers from easy all the way to extreme. But considering that this is Google's most advanced coding model, this should probably be really easy. So now we can see here that we actually do have the code. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now let's go over to the Pine editor, paste this in. So far, it looks pretty decent. I'm going to click update on chart, and we do get a very interesting indicator. Now remember guys, this isn't actually a strategy. It's literally just a basic indicator. And of course, we don't actually have a strategy here, but we can see that this does work. Google passes the first test, which it should, with of course flying colors. Now remember, this is just a moving average strategy, so it's pretty basic and you wouldn't expect anything from this. Now this is where we get to tier 2. Let's actually test if the AI can combine multiple indicators and implement conditional logic. So our strategy here is going to be the 9 EMA crossing above the 21 EMA and the RSI is below 70 and above 50. So this one's a little bit more difficult because we got conditional logic that only occurs if certain conditions are met. But I do want to see if the AI is actually able to turn this into a profitable strategy. So let's move from an indicator now to an actual strategy. So now right here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this. So let me go ahead and ask Gemini to improve the EMA crossover strategy. And then all I'm going to have to do here is just wait a minute for it to update the code. So now we can see here, it's actually managed to go ahead and do this really well. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this code. And remember this time, I actually asked it to update the PineScript to transform it into an actual indicator and have the actual conditional logic in there. And so I've actually just uploaded this on the chart, and we actually can see here that, interestingly enough, this one actually gave us a very profitable strategy. On the daily here, we can see that it actually generated some buy signals, and we can see that with this conditional logic, it actually makes strategies that are much more profitable than traditional ones. Now we can see here that the max drawdown is only 17%, which is actually pretty remarkable when we consider average trading strategies that, drawdown is usually closer to like 20 to 30%. So this is pretty crazy here. Now, one thing that I will say, of course, with testing Bitcoin is that the asset pretty much has just gone up the past few years. But with this one as well, we can see that it actually took 100 trades. So this is a lot more than I've seen in other videos. I know many people have tested this model, and 100 trades is actually really decent, which means that it's actually actively trading the asset. And so this looks really good here. So now let's go ahead to tier 3, a dynamic strategy with stop loss and take profit. So this is where we need to test if the AI can build a fully risk-managed strategy with backtest-ready logic. This is going to be the same strategy setup as tier 2. And right here, we're going to add a 1.5 to 1 risk to reward ratio using PineScript strategy with the exit and stop limit. Now, of course, there could be potentially trail stops or dynamic position sizing as a bonus challenge, but I want to keep this as simple as possible so you guys can understand just how powerful this AI is. So now I'm going to create a completely new strategy. Going to use this one for my community here, and this is going to be tier 3. So now I'm going to ask it to basically scrap that, and then I'm not going to say show strategy performance statistics because it already can do that in TradingView. So now I'm going to put this in, and now it's going to generate completely new code. All right, so our trading strategy here is completely done. So now let's go ahead and update this on the chart. Let's see what it's able to do. Okay, so it actually gave us a new one here, and we can actually see sometimes our stop loss is getting hit. We can see TP is getting hit here, TP is getting hit. So if we go to the strategy, wow. Okay, so this strategy right here, we can see that this one, yeah, it didn't work that well. But the idea goal here was to actually test whether or not it could code this. And interestingly enough, it actually can code this pretty well. So I do think that in that scenario, the most likely error was probably human, like me saying that my TP needs to be this, my position sizing needs to be this. That is probably why there is such a big drawdown here. And we can see that max drawdown of 27%, 600 trades. So it is trading a little bit more. And you can see that its profitability ratio isn't, the best in terms of 27%, 172 out of, 631 trades not going well there. So of course, that's not really good. So you can see right there that it does really depend on which kind of trading strategy you implement. But the point here was to see if it could actually code this well, and it actually does. So I could actually ask it to, just make this a profitable trading strategy, and it could, do it on its own. So now this is what we got the tier 4, which is much harder. This is a multi-time frame strategy. So we're basically going to test if this can upgrade the strategy to use multiple time frames. So can it keep the EMA crossover over an RSI filter? Can it only take trades when the daily time frame shows price above the 200 EMA? And can it make the position size smaller when the ATR is high, when it's more volatile? So this is going to be something that's super interesting. And I really want to see if it's able to do this because most LLMs can't. So let me go ahead now. And then I'm going to say upgrade my strategy to multiple timeframes. Hopefully it's going to be able to do this. All right. So we have this strategy here. So this is going to be super interesting because it's basically much more dynamic. So it's got a daily time frame and it's actually adjusting the position sizing over time. So this is going to be super interesting to see if it's actually able to do this and if it's able to actually make this a profitable strategy first time. So once again, I'm going to hop on over to the Pine editor. Let me actually update this on the chart. Okay. So we do have 2 errors here. So I'm actually going to ask and see if Gemini can quickly diagnose these. This one seems really easy. It's just the title length, but this one seems a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and input this in. Okay, so we have the update strategy here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. And let's go ahead and test this. Let's update this on the chart. And so far, this one, it does actually manage to code this with all the different variables, which is actually good. So we've got a working trade, but the strategy just isn't currently profitable. So for tier 4, we do have a multi-time frame strategy, which is of course really good. But we can see here that on different time frames, it actually does work in a variety of different ways. We can even see here on the daily time frame, it does tend to work best, but it still isn't profitable at all. So not really the best, but of course, if we do go on the 2 daily. So yeah, the strategy is actually pretty decent in terms of the fact that it actually works. But once again, we can see that if we change this to the 2 day, that this one seems to be the one that is the best in terms of overall trading. However, it only took 29 trades, which isn't ideal. Ideally for a crypto, you want it to be taking multiple trades, but I'm guessing that here you can literally see here that it sells here and it did buy here. So these are very, very good swing trades on the 2-day chart that it does seem to be hitting. We can see here, the TP is being hit, TP being hit, stop loss being hit, and we can hear that the TP's hit, sell, TP hit. This is really, really interesting. Like a lot of these ones, the TPs are getting hit and it's got a 50% win rate there. So that one is actually pretty decent. So yeah, so far, so good on the number 4. And so then this is where I'm going to come to tier 5, which is an adaptive market strategy. So this one essentially just adapts to market conditions because in crypto, as you know, crypto is pretty volatile and crypto moves up. Sometimes it goes in bear markets really quickly. So this one, I'm going to say, use an ADX indicator to identify the trending and ranging markets. And of course, in trending markets, use an ADX above 25, use the EMA crossover system, and ranging markets, use an ADX less than 25 and use the RSI oversold bought signals instead. So let's see if it can create an adaptive dynamic market strategy that actually works and is profitable. And so once again, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to say that this is for the 4-hour chart. So once again, I'm just going to go ahead and click enter on this. And this is the last strategy that we're going to be testing. So far, I basically think it's passed all tests. The only thing it hasn't done is made strategies completely profitable, but that can vary based on the time frame and of course people's different strategies. But nonetheless, it does code pretty well without any major errors. All right, so here we have it. The strategy is finally here. Let's go ahead and put this in. Let's actually go to the Pine editor and test this one. I'm actually excited to test this on the 4-hour chart. So this one's updated. So with this one, we did actually get 3 errors here. So I'm quickly going to diagnose this and of course put this in. And then of course, we'll see if Gemini can actually quick diagnose on the first try. So let me go ahead and see if it can diagnose this. Usually the model being able to diagnose it in one fix is a pretty good sign. And since this is Google's most advanced coding model, I do think that it should be able to do this. All right, so let's try this strategy out and let's see if we can update this one on the chart here. Hopefully this works first time. And okay, so the strategy right here, of course, let's actually go on the 4-hour chart because that's what it's meant to be optimized for. And it did take some strategies. It did take some trades. But with this one, I got to be honest, the visual indications are pretty bad, but that's minor. We can change that. And on the 4-hour chart here, we can see that this, they did manage to code it for dynamic conditions. But unfortunately, once again, there is kind of like a low trade being taken here. 53 trades isn't that much considering the time frame of this asset over 10 years. But if we do go to the 8-hourly chart, it does seem to be a bit more optimized for that. The 1-day chart, not so much. We can see a max drawdown here of only 8%, but nonetheless, this was an asset that had incredible returns. And of course, on the 2-day chart, not so much either. But overall, I do think that it is still a very powerful tool. Google Gemini ranks as pretty much number 1 in terms of coding overall. So having this model code strategies is going to be something that is remarkably important coming in the next few years as we move away from traditional coding to more sort of AI-assisted coding. And what we can see right here is clear proof that provided that you're able to tweak the strategies and you know exactly what you're doing, you can get strategies that do work really well. So let me know if you guys were surprised by these results. Google basically passed all the tests here. It was able to code all these strategies with no problem. And even when it managed to find issues, it managed to fix them almost instantly. Now, of course, if you guys do enjoy my AI trading community, this is going to be somewhere where, of course, we use prompts. I have my own indicators. I've got a bunch of different tools here that I, personally use to use these scripts and stuff to actually make a consistent profit. And if that's something that intrigues you,